Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause. Not to quit, not to give up, but to listen. Because growth doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from surrender, from healing, from alignment, and from letting God lead again. This is a space for the in-between seasons, for the rebuilding, for the moments when faith is tested and refined. Here, we talk about the places life feels broken and the process of becoming whole. We believe healing is possible, clarity is attainable, and transformation happens when faith meets action. This is Emerge Stronger, where purpose is restored, truth is spoken, and growth is spirit-led. Welcome to a new season. Hello, and welcome to the Emerge Stronger podcast. I am here with my co-hosts, Melody and Erin. Hello.
Hi there.
Hey.
We are kicking off season 2 of the Emerge Stronger podcast, and we're just excited to be back. We've been away for a while. We've taken a pause, but we are back, and we're going to just have a conversation about where we've been and what's coming for Emerge Stronger and It's Not Over. And we didn't disappear, and we didn't walk away from our goals and our missions, but we did take a very purposeful pause. And so we just kind of want to share what God's been doing in our lives. We've all kind of been in different seasons over the last, I think it's been since August maybe. And so, the pause was purposeful, and we kind of just want to share what God's been placing on our heart and why we stepped back.
When we stepped back, I think that we were all, in that season of, we were doing traveling and mission trips and, here and there. Of course, kids always come into play and spouses come into play in that too. But I think it was very important for each of us because I feel like God shifted us. It was really kind of all at the same time. Like we started having these conversations about what God was telling us and what direction we needed to go. And so even though it seemed like everything kind of paused, and I even felt like a bit guilty for it because I was like, I feel like I'm not concentrating where I need to concentrate on. But, even in that, God was very present. And I think he was preparing our heart for what is to come.
Yeah.
That's right.
For me, I just needed a moment to breathe. We had a lot of changes over the summer and just spiritually and emotionally, just regrouping. For me, it was very purposeful. I feel like we're definitely on a great path moving forward.
We've had a lot of changes in our own personal lives, and we don't have to get into the complete details of all of them. But like you mentioned, Melody, there was a couple trips that happened, and you went on a missions trip. I went on a missions trip. And even during this whole season, I had to move. And so it happened really fast. And so it was hard to kind of keep the momentum going when there's so many pieces that are, I want to kind of say maybe like out of alignment or not in the norm, but, very purposeful things that happened for all three of us. And so it was nice to just really connect with the Lord and to sit and kind of just sit and pause in silence. And I think we all did a little bit of growing and learning through the time that we've been away from, not fully away from the business, but just, been away in our thoughts and in our time with God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think in that season, we had a lot of conversations, and a lot of those conversations I wish we would have recorded because it's like, that actually would have made a great podcast to talk about. But, while we're on here, I just want to say, I appreciate the two of you. I mean, I feel like we've all come to the same place with what needs to happen and the direction that we're going and all that. But it's just nice to be among people that have the same mindset in terms of like their spiritual relationship with God, their value system and all that. And that is one of the things that I saw and respected. I have seen growth in both of you, specifically spiritually, and it's encouraged me to make sure that I am in that same vein with you guys and growing and learning more about the Lord, or just allowing him to even just change me and shape me. Right. So I don't think I've ever said that to you guys. So I wanted to tell you all that today.
Aw, thank you.
That's sweet. I feel the same too. I feel so blessed to have both of you in my life, just as spiritual leaders and friends, just to do life with. For me, I feel like through the pause, we all realized, I'm going to speak for myself, but I think we all kind of realized how much healing needed to take place as we grew spiritually. And for me, I just, I've always had a love for psychology, for learning why people behave the way that they do and how it affects relationships and how it affects parenting, how it affects everything.
Mhm.
The way you go to the grocery store and show up, in front of the cashier and things like that. But for me, I just learned how much the ways of the world are incorporated in the way people lead people and guide people, and how much of God is not so much in that equation.
Mhm.
And so, just for me, this pause was so good to just kind of redirect my mind to what I wanted for It's Not Over and for the people that come through us for help and for guidance and for leadership. So I'm so thankful to God for just how he opened my eyes and my heart to a lot of what goes on in the world and what people are not getting that they need.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. I feel like too, just even in this season of being distant from our audience and, just from the business a little bit, I feel like, and I'll speak for myself, I've sat in a lot of, it's not that I completely let everything go. It was just kind of shifting and refocusing and listening to podcasts that I needed to listen to, educating myself and reading books and just growing spiritually, but also just growing in a way that's just going to help me move forward with the direction of where we're going, and which I'm so excited about. And we've got a lot of really cool things coming, but it was all like what we have coming is all born out of this time that we took, and our spiritual growth, our own personal growth, like Erin mentioned, the healing. And so I think that I feel like I'm in a much better place now than I was back, in August. And I'm just ready.
Yeah, me too. In order for us as an organization to be able to help people, you have to kind of go through some of the things that they have been through to even get to the place where you can help them. Otherwise, they're like, who are you? And how can I relate to you if I don't know what you've gone through? And so I think we've all, in different ways, have had our ups and downs in the last few months. And in that, we have started talking about different areas of life, right? And maybe even some that we hadn't considered before, that as coaches that we needed to, look at in our own lives first, because it has to start with you first, but then kind of guide them to the place where, maybe it's not just one or two areas. Maybe you're not realizing there are other areas too that you really need to allow God to come into, and you get to a place of surrender so he can heal that. And I know for me, I'll speak for myself, that there are areas of my life that I'm like, here you go, God, I surrender all of this to you. But then there are other areas of my life where I'm like, don't touch this. Right. And of course, God's going to be after what that praise is that you're not giving to him. And why we struggle with that. I mean, it is spiritual warfare that we do. And yes, we're experiencing spiritual warfare on the outside with the principalities and the powers and all that kind of thing. But we also experience quite a bit of spiritual warfare within ourselves, because the flesh and the spirit is always against each other, even in our own selves. And so in that, sometimes we will war with God with, hey, don't touch the spot. I mean, even Jacob did, right? He was wrestling with God, so much so that God touched his hip and he had a limp for the rest of his life, right? Because it's like, hey, look, that physical pain that you're experiencing, is minor to what you're actually going to experience spiritually if you don't release this, right? And so that's kind of been the challenge to myself, even recently with the things that have gone on, even in dreams, like Lord confirming it to me that what we've been talking about, the stuff that we've been working on, is where we need to go and what we need to teach to the people that come to us.
Yeah. I feel like that's good. I know that we've all have personal experience with what we've created and what we teach. It's not just from a textbook. This is what you're supposed to do. It's lived, and it's tried and true.
Yeah.
That's what you say, we lived it, we've applied it, and it works.
Mhm.
And to me, it's what's the missing piece to most restoration and in relationships. It's that missing piece when people can't put it together. It's that missing piece of what they're not understanding.
Mhm. Yeah. A few months ago, somebody was talking to me about coaching, and they were kind of asking me what are the do's and don'ts, and I was like, I can tell you what a do is. A do is you have to walk out what you're talking to them about. So you have to practice what you preach. One, because if you don't, you're not going to be whole. And so then you're serving this person from a place of brokenness, And I know we're broken in the healing process for the rest of our lives, right? But there's like big broken and little broken, And if you're working on yourself and healing yourself, then you're coming to them in a place from a much more healed place than you would if you weren't doing anything. And so you have to put the practices into place yourself and really live those, believe in them, buy into them, believe them, and put them into place so you can give from that, because you can't fake your way through this, and the more authentic you are, the more influence that you can have on the other person. So one, just for your own wholeness, your own healing, so that you can be the version that God wants you to be with this person, right? Then you have influence with that person because you're actually walking it out. And so I think that's a good point, that you have to do these things. And I know for me, especially right now, like there's been things that have gone on that have been devastating. It's like, what do I need to do? I need to practice what I preach. I've got to dig in. I've got to look at those places. I have to surrender those places to God that I'm trying to keep back from him. In order to do that, I heal, and then I become more equipped to help other people in their journey. I can't heal anybody, right? But I can serve as support and strength and a guide as they actually take the steps to heal themselves.
Yeah. And I feel like that's definitely what the Lord has been doing in my life is, over these last several months, is just teaching me and guiding me. So therefore, then I can go help and guide others. And I like exactly what you're saying. I can't do that unless I first trust and believe in the one that is going to guide me. And so I do feel personally that I'm in a much better place today to do that than I was, 4 months ago. And it was something that needed to happen. And there's a little bit of part of me that wishes that we could have kept the momentum going. But I think that we all needed to be obedient to the Lord and take the pause and listen to his direction.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he speaks in that still small voice, it's not always bright, shining neon lights that says pause, 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 or here's direction. It's like when you get alone with God and you just listen to him, whether that is like reading the word or listening to a preacher or in worship, but whatever, journaling, whatever, taking that time to really listen to what he has to say. If you're so clouded with so many other things, laundry, kids, clients, what's the next lead magnet, all those things, if we're so focused on that, then it's hard to sometimes hear his voice. And we can have the heart of, we really want to do things for God and all that we get so focused on doing things for God that we don't have space for God,
Mhm.
and then that's when the heartbreak comes or the failure comes, or, maybe the Holy Spirit just whispers and says, hey, it's time to return. We have to keep that close connection with him. Otherwise, I mean, our lives are nothing without him.
Yeah. I actually read a book. And I have not shared with you this book, but it was during this pause that we took. And in there, it talks about the difference between working with God and working for God, and how he will take something away from you, and how to hear him. But most importantly, it was talking about how we self-assign things that he never asked us to do.
Mhm.
And that creates chaos in our life, in every area of our life, in our marriages, in our homes, just with our kids, in our work environment, like wherever. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that we are self-assigning our stuff, or stuff that God never asked us to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't take that time to rest and to be still and to hear from him, then you don't realize that you're self-assigning.
Mhm.
Um,
That's something that I recognized about you, because by nature you are a yes, 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 yes. And I've seen kind of this shift in you where it's like, I'm not going to say yes so much. I mean, you haven't said that to me, but I've just noticed it
yeah,
in the interactions that we have. And that's good, because somebody with your behavioral style is yes, yes, yes. I want to, be connected to people. I want to help people. I want to, be a part of this, and all that. Mine's like, I just want to be alone. But for you, it's like, I want to be a part of this. And so for you to say no, it's almost if you're denying the hurt part of yourself and saying, no, I'm going to allow God to come in, and I don't have to say yes to everything and everyone, because he's really what I need. Right. And I'm
yeah,
going to let the Holy Spirit guide me on because there will be times when he wants you to say yes. Right. Because you have a calling, you have a purpose, and he wants you to fulfill things on this earth, but you're doing it from a spirit-led place, a whole place, instead of, I'm doing it because I need to be the center, I need to have my life full, and all that kind of thing. It's a much different place.
yeah. That's the biggest thing, for me. And I've actually enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed going, is God assigning me this, or am I doing it because I'm afraid I'm going to miss out? And then as time passes and as you practice it, you realize I didn't miss a thing.
Mm-hmm.
My soul is so at peace
Mm-hmm.
because I listened and did what God said, versus feeling like I had to do so much, or to do everything.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Good.
I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Erin, about just the ways of the world. And it's so easy to get caught up in all of that. And that's been one of my biggest lessons in the last few months, is just really asking myself, is this the ways of the world, or is this the way of the Lord? And just taking a pause in that and making sure that I'm aligning myself with what the Lord has in store. The Lord did not have in store for us just to continue the momentum and to produce a podcast just to produce a podcast, or to produce content just to produce content. We completely should pause on everything.
Right.
And I think that that was really important, and just being obedient to the Lord, because that's what the Lord needed us to do. And now, the Lord has given us this different, outlook or perspective, and this different energy, that now we can come back and we are aligned, we are whole, we are at peace, we have the right vision. And that just is so important. And I think that, like, as I was sitting here listening to you guys and thinking about the audience and, the ways of the world, like, it's just a do all of the time. And when you are able to listen to the Lord and really be obedient to what he needs you to do, like, your life does change. Things
Yeah.
truly do change for you. And I think that, I feel like I want to share, with our audience and with the people that, follow us and that are clients of ours. It's just kind of, we're human. I think fair for us to be vulnerable with our audience and with our clients and really just to share like, yeah, we have a business and, yeah, we're here to help people. But again, like you were saying, Melody, we can't help you. We can't help our people if we're not, just in alignment and complete.
Yeah. And I think, the beginning of the pause, it's where we all kind of went through heartache, and then we went through heartache like together and then heartache individually. Right.
Mhm.
And I mean, there was a conversation that you and I were having this morning, Sonia, of, if we allow God, and this is mine and Erin's favorite scripture, Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. We get to choose if we let God turn that around, right? Whatever heartache or whatever. And so in this time period, these are just kind of a couple of things that God has shown me. Number one, sometimes I'm the problem, and number two, that, people are going to fail you, but that's okay. Like, it's okay if people, let you down or hurt you or whatever, because they're not the source, and I know for me in my life, a lot more when I was younger, but even sometimes from time to time, I will admire somebody or whatever and then just be so devastated when they let me down. I just went through that this week, and so, you have, I've struggled with that. I wouldn't say idolizing somebody or putting them on the throne, although I do feel like I did that in the early years of my life, put people on the throne of my heart. But just, you admire them and you kind of think, oh, like they might save the day or whatever. And then you realize it's something completely different. And you're just like heartbroken over it. Like, oh, I can't believe that. But at the end of the day, what did that do? That refocuses my attention. Okay, who is the savior? Who is the provider? Who's the deliverer? It's only Jesus, right? It doesn't matter what, and like the things that we go through in our life, they're no surprise to God. God knows they're coming. Now, I don't believe that God causes them. I do think there's an allowance, but I don't think there's necessarily a cause. But I do believe that if we let him, because that's the thing, we can choose to sit in victimhood and be poor, pitiful me. And, for a time that sometimes does happen, but he doesn't want us to stay there. He wants us to surrender that to him, because in that surrender, even if we don't have all the answers and we don't understand why and we're still hurt or whatever, he turns it around for our good. We might see that tomorrow, or we might see it 10 years down the road, but at some point in time, he will do that because that's his goodness. And we can't recognize those things until we go through those things, right? If everything's just perfect all the time or we're perfect all the time, then where's the room for us to recognize his magnificence? There's no place. Right.
Mhm.
And so, every time I go through something, I'm not always perfect, for sure. I've had my moments, but at some point in time, there's like this shift, and you feel it spiritually, where you see that the Lord is like, yeah, okay, so now give it to me and let me turn it around for your good. But that can't happen until you give it to me.
That's right.
Melody, that reminds me of something that I came across a couple months ago, and I was on social media and I was scrolling, and there's this woman that started a business right around the same time that we all merged together. And her business has completely taken off. Like she's going places. She's doing really big things. Her name is out there. She does like, TV interviews and like all of these things. Granted, it's a little bit of a different business, but still, I've been watching her since the very beginning of like when she launched this business from like nothing, and now she's doing all these amazing things. And I remember where I was when I was scrolling and sitting there, and for a brief second, I was like, Why couldn't that be me? Why couldn't that be me? Why couldn't that be us? Why isn't our business taking off like that? And then I was quickly reminded, and I felt that's the Lord telling me, like, that's not the plan I have for you. You are not her. Why are you comparing yourself to her? And the Lord put me in check real fast. And going back to our pause, like the Lord needed me to sit in this time period and just be closer to him and like strengthen my relationship with the Lord. And so, it's for a reason. And I just truly do believe that the Lord's got us exactly where he wants us right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So I'm excited about the next version, I guess, of It's Not Over. Is that what we would call it? The next version?
Yeah.
It's more focused, and it's more aligned, and it's more spirit led. And that's what I am so excited about, is that it's so spirit led. So much of it is a part of all three of us, spiritually, and what we bring to the table. Anyway, so I'm just so excited about it, and I'm ready to just start working with it. So probably first of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
I love the way that it was born.
Yeah.
Maybe I've said this a million times, but it's just out of a conversation about God. Well, first, to back up a little bit, it's not that we didn't have God in our business. We did, right? But we were definitely more social science focused, And I believe that I was a strong advocate for that, because what we didn't want to do is exclude someone that doesn't believe in the Lord, right? So we wanted to still be able to help them, even if they didn't believe in God. And we can.
Can.
We're going to respect what they believe and all that kind of thing. But as a business, just like when I tell the story of, the marriage crisis with me and David, I can't remove God from it. I had somebody tell me before, you have too much God in it. I'm like, but I can't remove it, because he is the reason why my marriage is reconciled. Like, I can't say, oh, we just did this great job and came together. No, God moved in our lives in a tremendous way that got us to the place where we could reconcile, right? In this particular situation, and I really think God moved on y'all's hearts before he moved on mine with it, but we were just having conversations, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we need to have God the center. We need to be talking about him. We need to call out darkness, right? And bring it into the light and all of that. So that's why I love this, because it was just a conversation. It wasn't a strategy that we had to, figure out and all that kind of stuff. It was really born through spirit-led conversations.
Yeah.
I think, Melody, that, I'm with you in kind of where we were with our business. And I'm just going to say this. I felt like sometimes we were just tiptoeing around, we want to talk about God, but not too much. Like, let's hold back. And that just didn't feel right. And even with, God being in your marriage, he's the reason why you reconciled. It's so hard for each one of us to not say that. And so I just wanted to share something really quick, and it made me think of it as you were talking. And I just feel like it's, just very personal and powerful. But so my husband and I, we were asked to go to Egypt to do a marriage conference and to do marriage ministry. 7 years ago, that was never in the plan for us. That would have never happened. And just thinking about how the Lord has worked in our lives, each single one of us, in different ways. And for us not to be able to, not necessarily not be able to, but just hold back and tiptoe around that, I just feel like that's not being honest. Like, that's just not being, transparent and vulnerable about our stories. And so I think there's just so much importance in sharing our own personal stories, but just how the Lord has paved the way for us and how the Lord has guided us to exactly where we are with that. Does that make sense? I feel like I was kind of all over the place for a second.
No, it's good.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that for me, the hesitation that I had before, like, whenever we would do something, we would talk about something, do a podcast, I'd always have hesitation, like just feeling like when you align with, we'll just say like therapists and counselors today and what they're teaching the world, they're just teaching people how to validate themselves. And everything is about me and how I feel. And you shouldn't, it creates just this victim mentality of a person feeling, I guess, entitled to being treated a certain way, right? And they're never taught to look at Jesus. What does Jesus want for your life? What does the Bible say about what you're supposed to be doing while you're here? And are you doing those things? And when you take all of that out, it just leads to further disaster. And it could potentially lead to the ultimate disaster, right? And I just think that that's there's a lot of marriage companies out there. There's a lot of people that are helping people reconcile marriage and understand relationship. But they're leaving out the biggest piece. And so, so you're right. So as we were all dissecting all of this through a conversation it's where the next part's born. And I'm super proud of it. And I know that it's going to help so many people understand how they need to be living their life. And just that alone is going to help their marriages and every relationship that they ever are in. So do you want to tell us about it, Sonia?
Sure. Okay, so it is called Specifics, and Specifics it's a spirit-led framework that focuses on each area of your life. And the purpose of this is to get specific with your life. And it's really for anyone and everyone that feels as though they're lost or they're stuck or they've tried this and they've tried that and they've gone to counseling and they've seen therapists and they've read the books and they've listened to the podcasts, and it's still that piece that's just that missing piece. And so Specifics, it stands for spiritual, physical, emotional, your career, intellectual, financial, your identity, clarity, and the social aspect of your life. And so we have really taken a lot of time and so much intention on making sure that, number one, that Specifics is aligned with the Lord. It is biblical. And so we are just so excited about this. By the time you're listening to this podcast, it will probably is about to launch or will have already launched, and you'll be able to hear more about it. And we'll share more about it in coming episodes, but we're just really excited about the direction that we're taking all of it.
And so we just want to encourage people to really, it is whatever you're going through is about you, but it's not about you, right? So what Erin was saying earlier about, when you go to therapy and stuff like that, they validate you as a person, and really all you really need is God's validation, right? The more we try to validate ourselves and focus on our pain and, all that kind of thing, it's very a self-centered type thing. And I'm not saying ignore your pain. I'm not saying don't heal from your pain. Those things are very important to do in your life. But you can get so focused on those areas of pain that you stay in victimhood for long periods of time. And that is not going to serve you. And the more you're focused, that's self-centered, right? Self-focused. The more you're focused on your pain, then you have more of a need to protect yourself. And so what do? You start pushing people away, and you start making every conversation about you, what happened to you, what you're going through and all of that. And you don't want to do that. I've seen those times in my life. Like I've seen those times when I've been that way, and I have underneath been so miserable in my life. But the more I focus on, again, letting God come in to the scenario and say, yeah, I see that pain, surrender it to me. How do we do that? We do that through focusing on the specifics of life, but not from a place of I am the victim, to rather at the place where I want to be victorious over these things. I want my life to have more meaning than it does. I need to realize that my life is bigger than just my life. Like there are things that I've been called to do. I can't fulfill those callings if I'm so focused on poor, pitiful me. Again, I'm not saying, I mean, people go through real trauma. I've been through that, right? They have heartaches, they have loss, they have all the things. And I'm not trying to minimize anybody's pain at all, because those things are real. You have to have the emotions. Even God gave you emotions, right? But he also has equipped us with the things that we need to overcome those traumas, big T, little t traumas. He has equipped us with that. And that's what specifics is about, is helping you get through whatever you've experienced so that you can get to the place that not only you experience healing from God, but you're at the place where then you can give back to the kingdom of God, that you can feel purposeful in life, that you can enjoy life. And, this is funny because I was just on a call and one of our coaches, Monica, said this. She said, oftentimes in life, you experience joy and sorrow at the same time, and that is true. And even in the midst of whatever chaos is going on in your life, when you focus on specifics and you surrender those things to God, you can be triumphant and be joyful all through whatever you're going through.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
So I'm excited to be back. I feel energetic and excited, even though it doesn't seem like that because I'm not an exciting type of person. But I am on the inside. I'm very excited. But I'm glad, and I can't wait for us to be able to begin to share the things that God has been doing, to share specifics with people.
Yeah. I'm excited too. Looking forward to it.
All right. Stay tuned and we'll see you next time.